So we've gone through all of the big aspects of our presentation layer, right? We've seen how to localize our application. We've seen how to implement our MVC commands. We've taken a look at feedback and validation, as well as some helper classes that can be used. Now let's take a look at how we can make our application look better by using CSS. So when we are using CSS within our Portlet component or within our application, we can define which CSS classes we're using by defining it within the component property, right? And so we have our CSS class wrapper in Liferay that adds, well, just that, a wrapper CSS class to the application itself, right? With that, we can define these other four, right? So you can have other CSS classes included, but these are going to be the big ones or the main ones. So portal CSS, right? This is the path for the portal related CSS files. Portlet CSS, right, for our Portlet component or for the portal. So with our CSS files, if you look within our project, you can typically find them in meta-inf resources inside of a folder called CSS. Now, if you're using CSS files as SCSS, then these are going to be Sass compiled. So SCSS files compiled to CSS going to be referenced in the properties with the .css. Right. So an example here, right? We have our main CSS file called main SCSS, right? So even though the CSS file is SCSS, in the component annotation within the property, we still declare it as a .css file, right? And then the generated HTML code for whatever it is that we use with that SCSS is as so. So when using CSS, couple tips, couple tricks here. We got to remember that namespace. Again, namespacing is always important to preserve the uniqueness and to ensure that we're targeting the right thing. And we have Clay to help us with a lot of our implementation of the CSS, right? We can also leverage Bootstrap as well to be able to gain some of the styling defined by Clay and Bootstrap as well. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look and see what it looks like adding CSS to our gradebook application. So we're going to do just that, add some CSS resources and see what happens. So let's head back over to Liferay Developer Studio to take a look at this.